Hi, don't forget to write comments. Enjoy. You're listening. It can often be said that there is a fine line between love and hate. Many of us pass this line every day. In addition, there are those who always tell you about the human condition or that you need to stop being so hateful. These are the ones who say you have to show humanity. As for me, I'm just worried about my condition and the condition of my family. It's good to have friends, but be realistic. You can only trust your friends from now to now, and in my case, not all relatives or friends had my back. It was a hard lesson that I learned from my own experience. The good thing about all this was that I found out who my real family and friends were. My name is Pace Johnson. I am 30 years old. I am a former rugby player and an avid runner. I'm married to Amy. She's a hot little mom with an appropriate attitude, but the best thing in my life is that I am the father of 3 little boys. At the time of our collapse, Amy and I had been married for about 7 years. The reason we had children so quickly and often was because I couldn't get enough of my wife. I lived and breathed Amy. That's where I guess my downfall started. We made our vows the day after we graduated from college. Amy majored in secondary education and I majored in management information systems. Amy got a job at one of the elite men's clothing stores in Dallas, and I worked at Empire Funding. We had a pretty good start in life. There were ups and downs during our marriage, as in most marriages, but nothing serious anyway. Like I said, Amy and I had a great life. We lived pretty close to my family and I thought that was a good thing. My mom and dad were in their 50s, and I also had a younger brother named Rob. Rob was 19 years old and attended the same high school where Amy taught. In fact, she taught in his class as well. I think Rob was the ops kid because he was 11 years younger than me. Rob and I were as close as you can be with a younger brother who is 11 years younger than you. When something happened, or when Rob needed something, I was expected to make a sacrifice. That's how my family lived. That was our motto. You need to have the courage to deal with it. Be a hero, son. Just give it to your little brother and you'll end up better. My father repeated it so often that it got to the point where I just ignored it. Another good thing in my life was my best friend Jeffrey Parks. He was the brother I wanted to have. We've been best friends since 3rd grade, and if anyone knew how I felt, it was him. Jeff was a lawyer and I expected him to cover for me in all legal matters. Anyway, last Monday when I got home, Amy told me that she had taken the boys to her sister's house. It was 4 houses away. When she told me that, I thought we'd be alone, if you know what I mean, but she said she wanted to tell me something. I didn't think life could get any better. But then Amy said she was pregnant. I wanted to know when the baby was due so we could start buying things before the baby was born. I think I was as happy as a person can be. I was just hoping it would be a little girl so I could spoil her to death, but for some reason Amy was a little out of her mind and she had such a detached expression on her face. I asked her what happened. Pace, it's not your baby. Amy said it so softly that I didn't hear it. What's going on, honey? Why are you so depressed? Pace, I love you, but I won't have your kids anymore, Amy said. I was a little confused and asked her, why? Amy, you always said you wanted a big family, so why such a sudden change? God, it's not going to be easy. Then Amy started beating around the bush, as if anything she was going to say would change her life. Amy, I love you no matter what, so just tell me how you feel right now. Just say it. Then she stopped, took out her phone, pressed speed dial. Could you come over here please? Whoever she was talking to, it sounded like they knew more about it than I did. Amy, who was it and what's going on? Amy said, just keep up the pace. I need help to get my word to cross to you. I asked her who was coming and what it was that she just couldn't tell me without help. If you can't tell your husband, who else could you tell? All sorts of thoughts raced through my head. None of them were good, but what happened next shocked me too. Minutes later the doorbell rang. Amy answered the phone, and when she came back she was followed by my mom, my dad, and my 19-year-old brother Rob. Okay, Amy, what's going on? How can I say that without hurting you? Rob just stepped in. Listen, Pace, Amy is in love with me. That's what she wants to say. Mom and Dad are here to support us, Rob said. Listen bro, bad things happen. We didn't want to fall in love, but we fell in love. The baby she's carrying is mine and we need you to agree with that. Amy and I are going to be a family whether you like it or not. I started laughing like it was some kind of good joke, right? That's how it was supposed to be. Listen, Amy, so what do you want to tell me? No one was laughing. I looked back at Amy. She was looking down at her feet. Amy, please look at me and tell me it's not true. Tell me you're not that stupid. My father said, son, I know it's hard, but what's done is done. I know you're hurting right now, but Rob is your brother, and that's why we have to find a way to deal with this. We know that it takes a lot, but we have to make sacrifices. I asked my mom if she was involved in this. She said, son, I love both my boys. I don't want this to tear our family apart. You have to find a way to live with it. We're all family. You have to be a hero in this case. You need to find it in your heart so that you don't get angry and do the right thing. I couldn't believe they were asking me to just sacrifice my life for a snotty little boy because I was older at that moment. I mean, that exact moment I started hating them all. I mean, seriously. And with passion. The fine line between love and hate has been broken. The question is, how much can a man hate my family, the same family that betrayed me from all sides, my wife, my brother, and which parent would agree to this parody? How could I have known that it would only get worse? I couldn't take it anymore. I turned around and walked out with Amy and Mom in tow. Rob pulled Amy away from me. I walked 4 houses to pick up my kids. A deputy sheriff met me at her sister's house. For a moment I thought Amy's sister Rachel was involved, but she looked as shocked as I was. The deputy sheriff told me that I am not allowed to see my children until the court decides on custody. I looked around and felt that with every second the hatred was growing more and more. I asked the sheriff if I could go back to my own house. He asked whose name was on the mortgage. I said it was mine and mine alone, since there was no order forbidding me to be at home. I turned around to go home when I passed by my father. He grabbed my hand. Pace, listen, son, please don't do anything you'll regret later. My father said we all need to sit down and discuss this as adults. I looked at him and told him never to call me son again. No, take your hand away from me or you'll regret it all your life. Now leave me alone, all you backstabbers. I looked at Amy and said to her, I'd hire a good lawyer if I were you, because trust me, you're going to need it. Enjoy the kids while you can. Now get out and take them all with you before I could take another step. Rob shot me. He hit me on the right side of my face. Before I could jump back, my dad grabbed me and Rob hit me again. I'm lucky Rob hit me again. I'm lucky Rob hits like a girl, otherwise it would hurt me. The sheriff jumped off the porch, ran up and attacked Rob. I pulled away from my father's arms and punched him in the mouth. He fell to the ground and the expression on his face was utter shock. He would never have believed that Pace, a sensible child, would be so angry. When the fight ended, Rob and his father were arrested for assault, but I had no idea that the best was yet to come. A couple of days later, the assistant district attorney called me and asked me to testify. At the same time, I just happened to mention that it all started with the fact that my 29-year-old wife, with whom I lived for 7 years, was pregnant by a 19-year-old brother. 2 days later, I went to see the only person I could rely on, Jeffrey Parks, a lawyer. I arrived at his office in a good mood. It turned out to be another treacherous ride on the Pace Jeans End freeway. While waiting for him to finish, he went out with his new client. Amy looked around, saw me and grinned. I looked at Jeff and said, better Jeff, you do it to me. Jeffrey Parks turned and walked away. That's how it was arranged so quickly. Jeff was their man. He knew how I would react and cut me off. I never thought she would do something like that. I'll always wonder why he decided to follow her, but then you know what, who cares about his reasons, because as soon as he said yes, he no longer existed for me. I had to laugh again, but there was a difference. It was just another reason to keep crossing the line. I was becoming a different person. Hatred can do this to you. I turned to a different kind of lawyer, Stevie. Cr. Stevie was known as the ulcer. His motto was, if you have money, go for it. He was about to close his office when I found him. I asked him if he wanted to participate in the case. He saw the dollar signs, unlocked his door, and we went in. I wrote him a check for $10,000. I told him that sooner or later he would have to bail me out. He told me that he could not participate in anything illegal. I told him about my plans. He laughed so hard that spat out the gum. I went home. When I got there, there was a deputy sheriff sitting in the driveway. He got out of his car and asked who I was. I showed him my ID card. He gave me an envelope and said, "You have been served." I went in and threw the papers in the trash. I didn't even look at them. Then I made a few calls, had a snack, and went to bed. Tomorrow will be a new day. After a good night's sleep, I brushed my teeth, rinsed my mouth, and combed my hair. After all, I have to look my best.